Alone above Japan. April 13, 1945, 31,000 feet above Kyushu, Japan, late morning. The sky is thin here, cold, pale, and unforgiving. At this altitude, the world below feels distant and unreal. Mountain ridges fade into blue haze. Coastal plains glint faintly through broken cloud layers. The Pacific stretches endlessly to the east, calm and indifferent to the violence unfolding above it. A single B-29 Superfortress cuts through the air, engines droning with a deep, mechanical steadiness that vibrates through the pressurized cabin. Four Wright R3350 engines pull the massive bomber forward, each one running hot, pushed hard beyond what engineers ever intended. Inside the cockpit, Captain Robert Bob Reynolds, aircraft commander, scans the sky ahead. His oxygen mask fogs slightly with every breath. The temperature outside is well below freezing, but sweat clings to his back beneath layers of flight gear. They are alone. The bomber stream that crossed the Japanese coast minutes earlier has already disappeared into the distance, dozens of Superfortresses heading toward their assigned targets. This aircraft should be with them. Instead, it lags behind, wounded and exposed. A warning light glows amber on the engineer's panel. Engine number 3 is overheating. Not failing yet, but close. Cowl flaps won't bring it down any further, Technical Sergeant Frank Delgado, flight engineer, says over the intercom. His voice is controlled, but tight. He's already leaning over the panel, adjusting fuel mixture, watching gauges like a hawk. Reynolds nods. We keep her steady. They all know what that means. A lone B-29 over Japan is a magnet. The Superfortress was designed to fly high, higher than most interceptors, higher than flak could reliably reach. But by 1945, Japanese air defenses have adapted. Fighters climb higher. Pilots ram when guns aren't enough. Survival is no longer guaranteed by altitude alone. Behind the cockpit, the crew works in tense silence. In the pressurized central compartment, Staff Sergeant Al Tex Morgan, top turret gunner, rotates his sights slowly, scanning the empty sky. His twin, 50 caliber machine guns track instinctively, muscle memory guiding every movement. In the tail, Sergeant Kenji Sato, a Nisei gunner whose family was interned back home, watches the bomber's 6 o'clock position with absolute focus. He knows Japanese fighter tactics intimately. He knows how they think. And right now, he knows something is wrong. Captain, he says into the intercom, voice low, I've got dots, high, coming in fast. Reynolds doesn't ask how many. He already knows. The first Japanese fighters break out of the sun like falling knives. Mitsubishi Ki-84s and Kawasaki Ki-61s, fast and aggressive, noses down, wings flashing silver as they dive. They don't form up. They don't hesitate. They attack. Tracer fire streaks past the B-29, bright lines ripping through the thin air. The bomber shudders as bullets punch into its fuselage. The sound inside is a violent, metallic hammering, like fists slamming against the aircraft from every direction. Fighters 12 o'clock high, Morgan shouts. The Superfortress answers back. Its defensive system comes alive in an instant, remote turrets slaving together, guns tracking targets automatically as gunners fine-tune aim. The sky around the bomber fills with intersecting streams of 50 caliber fire. One Japanese fighter flies straight into it. The explosion is sudden and complete. Wings shear off. Debris scatters past the cockpit, tumbling end over end. Splash one, Morgan yells. But there's no time to celebrate. Mori fighters pour in. They attack from every angle. Head-on passes meant to blind the pilots, slashing dives from above, climbing shots from below where the bomber's belly is most vulnerable. The Japanese pilots aren't trying to survive. They're trying to kill the bomber at any cost. A burst of cannon fire rips into the left wing route. The aircraft jolts violently. Delgado curses as another warning light flares red. Fuel lake, he shouts, left wing. Reynolds clenches his jaw. He resists the urge to maneuver hard. The B-29 is heavy, damaged, and slow to respond. Sharp turns bleed altitude and strain already overstressed engines. "Hold formation," he mutters, to a formation that no longer exists. Another fighter screams in head-on. This one doesn't pull up. It hits the bomber. The impact is sickening, a violent jolt that throws men against harnesses. The cockpit fills with sparks as metal scrapes metal. The Japanese aircraft disintegrates on contact, its engine and cockpit tearing away and vanishing into the slipstream. The B-29 survives, but not unharmed. The nose glazing shatters, shards of plexiglass explode inward, wind howls into the forward compartment, the pressure drops instantly. "Rammed us," someone yells. Reynolds forces the bomber level. He checks his instruments with quick, precise movements. They're still flying. Somehow, they're still flying. Outside, the Japanese fighters pull back briefly, circling. They don't understand what they're seeing. A bomber that should be dead. Still moving. Still firing. Inside the Superfortress, the crew does not cheer. They reload. They scan. They brace. Because they all understand the truth now. This isn't a single attack. It's a siege. And it's only just beginning. The Japanese fighters regroup with frightening speed. They fan out into a loose ring around the crippled Superfortress, keeping their distance just long enough to choose angles to measure the bomber's response. Smoke trails from one engine now, thin but unmistakable. Fuel mist streaks back along the left wing, shimmering briefly before vanishing into the slipstream. Captain Reynolds knows what they're doing. They're probing, testing, looking for weakness. "Ammo check," he calls calmly over the intercom. One by one, voices answer back tight, clipped, professional. "Top turret green. Tail good. Right blister good. Lower turret half. Half. That matters." The next attack comes low and fast. Two fighters climb beneath the bomber's belly, firing upward, cannon shells slamming into the fuselage with concussive force. The aircraft groans. The floor vibrates beneath boots. Somewhere aft, metal tears with a sound like fabric ripping. Delgado shouts, hydraulics holding, but barely. Reynolds doesn't reply. He doesn't need to. Every man aboard can feel it. The Superfortress is being worn down piece by piece. Then the gunners strike back. The lower turret swings with mechanical precision, guns tracking one of the climbing fighters. The sky flashes white as tracers connect. The Japanese aircraft shudders, rolls inverted, and disintegrates in a sudden fireball. "Another one," someone yells. But even that victory carries a cost. A third fighter barrels in from above, firing as it dives. Cannon rounds smash into the bomber's right wing. The B-29 lurches hard. Reynolds fights the controls, easing pressure, refusing to overcorrect. The fighter doesn't pull away in time. It clips the wingtip. The impact tears away metal and fabric. The Japanese plane cartwheels past, spinning wildly before exploding below. Silence, brief, stunned silence, fills the intercom. "That's two ramming attempts," Delgado says quietly. "Two pilots who chose death over retreat." And still the bomber flies. Inside the Japanese fighters, disbelief spreads. They had expected this to fall after the first attack, after the second, after the ramming. Instead, it keeps moving forward, guns tracking relentlessly, crews firing with disciplined coordination. This isn't chaos. It's control. The attackers change tactics. Now they come in waves, one group distracting the gunners from above while others slip in low. The sky around the Superfortress becomes a violent carousel of aircraft, smoke, tracer fire, and falling debris. Sergeant Sato in the tail fires in short, precise bursts, conserving ammunition letting fighters commit before squeezing the trigger. He watches one Japanese plane hesitate just for a heartbeat. That hesitation is fatal. His guns hammer, the fighter bursts apart mid-roll. "Tail got one," he reports, voice steady. Reynolds checks his fuel, he checks his engines, he checks the compass. They are still over enemy territory. Minutes pass like hours. The count climbs. 5, 7, 9. Each kill is a moment of relief, followed immediately by renewed tension. For every fighter destroyed, another appears. The Japanese pilots are relentless, driven by doctrine and desperation alike. Fuel and ammunition mean little now. Only impact matters. A burst of cannon fire tears through the cockpit area. Reynolds feels heat and pain as fragments slice across his sleeve. Blood beads instantly, freezing almost as fast as it forms. He ignores it. The Superfortress shudders again as the damaged engine coughs violently. Delgado leans over the panel. She's going to seize if we keep this up. Reynolds nods, feather it. The propeller slows, then locks. The bomber yaws sharply, alarms scream. The remaining engines strain to compensate. For a split second, the aircraft feels like it might stall. Then it steadies. 3 engines, still flying. The Japanese fighters sense it. They surge forward again, everything they have left. Head-on passes, close-range bursts. One pilot dives so steeply Reynolds can see the man's face through the canopy, eyes wide, jaw clenched. The guns speak first. The fighter vanishes in a cloud of smoke and fragments. 12, Morgan shouts, "That's 12. No one answers, because 2 more are already coming in. One explodes under combined fire from the top turret and right blister gun. 13. The last fighter circles once, as if uncertain, then commits. It comes in low, too low, climbing desperately to reach the bomber's belly. Sato tracks it smoothly. He waits, then fires. The fighter disintegrates beneath the B-29, trailing flame as it plunges toward the sea. 14. The sky empties. For the first time since the attack began, there are no fighters around them. Only smoke, wind, and the heavy, labored sound of 3 engines pulling a battered bomber westward. Inside the Superfortress, no one celebrates. They are too busy staying alive. Reynolds exhales slowly, feeling the weight of the last 20 minutes settle into his bones. "Course west," he says, "we're going home." They don't know yet that what they just survived will become legend. They only know one thing. The enemy threw everything at them and failed. The Superfortress limps westward, alone. The formation is gone now, dots on the horizon fading into cloud and distance. No escorts, no friendly silhouettes, just one battered B-29 carving a slow, deliberate line through thinning air, leaving a trail of smoke that feels like a beacon. Inside, the silence is deceptive. It's filled with the whine of overworked engines, the rattle of loose metal, the hiss of freezing wind rushing through gaps where armor and skin used to be. The nose section is barely recognizable, plexiglass shattered, framing bent inward like broken ribs. Cold air pours straight into the forward compartment, numbing hands and faces. Captain Reynolds finally allows himself to look at the damage. It's worse than he thought. Control cables are exposed, vibrating visibly with every movement of the aircraft. Wiring hangs loose, sparking faintly. The navigator's table is half torn away, charts plastered against the bulkhead by airflow. Blood is smeared across metal surfaces, some of it frozen, some still fresh. "Sound off," Reynolds orders. One by one, the crew responds. All alive. Some wounded, one gunner concussed, another bleeding from shrapnel embedded in his leg, but everyone answers. That matters more than anything else. Delgado begins a careful systems check, improvising where instruments have failed. Fuel transfer is manual now. Trim adjustments are done gently, almost reverently, as if the aircraft might shatter if handled too roughly. They descend slowly, dropping altitude to ease the strain on the engines. Below them, the sea stretches endlessly. Every minute feels stolen. They half expect fighters to reappear, one last ambush, one final challenge, but none come. Whether the Japanese believe the bomber already doomed, or whether there are simply no aircraft left to intercept it, no one knows. What they do know is this: the Superfortress refuses to die. Hours later, the first friendly signals crackle faintly through the radio, distorted but unmistakable. Reynolds grips the yoke tighter, blinking hard against exhaustion and cold. Home base confirms, Morgan says, they're tracking us. As the coastline finally comes into view, ground crews on the airfield below freeze mid-motion. They see the aircraft first as a silhouette, then as something wrong. Very wrong. Binoculars come up, men stop running, trucks halt, officers stare. The B-29's nose is gone. Not damaged. Gone. The bomber approaches slowly, gear lowering with agonizing deliberation. The engines sputter but hold. Reynolds lines up the runway, compensating for asymmetric thrust, coaxing the wounded giant forward like a surgeon hitting a trembling hand. The touchdown is rough but controlled. Tires scream. Sparks fly. The bomber shudders violently. Then, miraculously, it rolls to a stop. When the engines finally cut out, the silence that follows is overwhelming. For a moment, no one moves. Then the crew begins climbing out, stiff, frostbitten, bloodied. Ground personnel rush forward, staring openly at the exposed interior of the aircraft, at the dangling cables, at the torn metal where a cockpit should be. Someone finally breaks the silence. Jesus Christ, how did you keep it flying? Reynolds doesn't answer right away. He looks back at the aircraft, the scorched skin, the missing nose, the gun barrels still blackened from heat. He thinks of the fighters spiraling down, of the ramming impacts, of the moment when the sky was full of enemies and nowhere to go. Then he says simply, "We didn't stop." In the days that follow, intelligence officers struggle to believe the reports. 14 enemy fighters destroyed. Multiple ramming attempts survived. A B-29 returned on 3 engines with catastrophic structural loss. Enemy pilots had radioed warnings. Some had broken off attacks in disbelief. Others had chosen death rather than retreat and still failed. Among the ground crews, the bomber becomes known by a quiet nickname: the one that wouldn't fall. Not because it was indestructible, but because the men inside it refused to let it. In the vast, grinding machinery of the Pacific Air War, this mission changes no strategy on paper, no maps are redrawn, no offensives delayed. But among crews preparing for the next mission, checking guns, tightening straps, writing letters home, the story spreads. If a Superfortress could survive that, then maybe they could survive tomorrow. And somewhere in the wreckage of destroyed fighters scattered far below, the truth lingers. On that day, in that sky, one B-29 proved that even when everything says you are already dead, discipline, coordination, and sheer refusal can still bring you home.